Hi, my name's PJ. I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet because I got to get out there quickly because the light is changing. But today I'm going to show you the importance of building a sky library and what it can do for your band photos, or in fact what it can do for a lot of different types of photography. If you have a sky library, you can drop them into all sorts of different things. Let me show you how it's done. Okay, so what I'm doing up here is I've come to an overpass because it's going to give me a really good 360 view and some different options for skies. As you can see, it's sort of side lit at the moment, which means there's some nice blue in the sky, there's some really fluffy white clouds, and I'm going to play with the polarizer to try and keep that blue and just sort of see how that affects the shot. Okay, so the setup we are rolling with today is the Sony a7 III, as usual. On that, I have the 16 to 35 2.8 G Master lens. On the front is a Kenko circular polarizing filter. This is going to cut the glare and bring the blue tones back into the sky. The tripod is a Manfrotto aluminium tripod. I can't remember the model. I'll link it in the description. And the head is a 3-way pan tilt head. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember the model. I'll link it all below. And of course I have this little Sony Bluetooth remote. This is one of my most underrated accessories. I absolutely love it, and I have it attached with a little carabiner and a bright yellow string to the tripod so I don't lose it. So the first thing that I'll say is make sure you get your horizon straight. I have a little spirit level on my tripod and there's also one on the camera. You want to make sure you're not wasting any of the frame by cropping or rotating or whatever. As you can see here from the first shot, I had a little bit too much foreground, and so what I did was tilt up a little bit to make sure I got the maximum amount of sky possible. Again, you just don't want to waste any of those megapixels, and you can always scale it up or move it around later in your shot. I'm also turning the camera, getting lots of different angles of the sky. It's amazing how just a little bit of a twist or a turn can give you a completely different image. And on a windy day like this, the clouds move so quickly, so by the time you take a few shots one angle and then you turn it back to where you had it, it's a completely different shot. Not every shot is going to be a complete 5-star 10 out of 10 banger hero shot, but if you can get a few really good skies from a trip, then that's well worth it, because over months, years, decades, you can build this library and go back to it and reuse them for different projects, and it's going to be well worth your time to do that, I think. The reason I'm doing it on the tripod is to give me some flexibility with my settings. It doesn't matter about keeping my hand steady, so I don't have to worry too much about the shutter speed. And to be honest, I kind of favor like a middle of the range sort of f-stop. I like, let's say, between 5.6 to f11 or something like that. I find too far stopped down will give you dust on the sensor, and too far wide open will give you, your image just won't be as sharp. So somewhere in the middle of the range I find is the sweet spot for this sort of thing. So I'm moving all around, up and down, side to side, shooting the other side of the overpass, and then I'm coming back to this side because the clouds have changed and it's a different shot now. Ready, have a look at this one for the difference between the polarizer and without the polarizer. So basically what we're looking for here is some more depth in the image. If you have a look at those blue tones, they're a lot deeper, darker, even the color changes a little bit. Without. And depending on where you spin the polarizer, the blue, that dark section will end up at a different part in the image. I can't tell you the exact science, but it's basically removing the glare. Even in those highlights in the clouds, you can see that they're a lot fluffier. It seems to be a lot more dynamic range in those areas. I'm also just going to freestyle a couple because why not? May as well point them directly up. Just get a few different shots of the sky while I'm up here. Honestly, I don't know if it's going to make the perspective weird, but it's worth getting while I'm here. Easy as that. Thanks, mate. Okay, here we are back at the computer. I've picked 3 different random shots from my website. They're just JPEGs, there's nothing special about them, but the skies are different in each shot.
If you have a look at this first one, it's pretty clear. The selection isn't too hard. So dropping a sky you'd think would be pretty easy. But then I've also picked some difficult ones. This one's got a lot of little leaves. It's got some power lines, a lot of little gaps on the side here that would be very tricky to make a selection for. This one, much the same, lots of trees and leaves and bits of debris and whatever else. Ordinarily, this would make quite a tricky selection. So let's start with this easy one here. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Edit and Sky Replace down here. And it's automatically going to, well, I've sort of given up the gun now. It's automatically put one in and it looks really good. I was playing with it before. So let's just, for the sake of this tutorial, let's go to this little plus here and we're going to add one of our shots from today. Let's do the first one here. I'm going to put these shots up for free. If you want to download them, there's a link in the description below. Download them, have a play, and you can even follow along with this video. So where is our shot? This one here. All right, so I've clicked it on and straight up it looks pretty damn good. There's a few little settings we can play with here to make it really pop off. If you just play with this first slider to shift the edge, I find when in doubt, if your selections are looking funny, just pull it slightly off so the blend, so the edge where the sky you're putting in blends in with the existing sky is either at the level of their heads or just above. So if you have a look here, if I bring it all the way down, it starts to get messy with the selections here, it starts to blend into the foreground. But if I just lift it up and blend it a bit better with the existing background, it tends to look much more real. So the second one, fade edge, is similar. It's just sort of the gradient. It's adjusting the gradient where the edge is, I believe. Again, don't go too hard. If you can bring it just off the background, it tends to look more realistic. The sky adjustments are pretty self-explanatory. You can make it darker or brighter. And then the temperature here, make it cooler or warmer. I think I kind of like the warmer look. I think it suits the background a little bit better. Let's brighten it up a little bit. Looks pretty cool. And the second half of this dialog box is to basically make the foreground fit in better with the background. So if you look at the lighting adjustment here, it'll try and match what you've got in your foreground to blend in better with the background. Personally, I like minimal of this one. I think when you go too heavy, it sort of dulls the photo out a little bit. So let's try somewhere about there. And then color adjustment. So let's say we've made this a cooler tone here. We can crank up the color adjustment and it's going to blend the foreground in a little bit better. Actually, that looks really sick, but let's try the warm one as well. And you can see that's with no adjustments. It's pretty warm already. Let's try with the blue. So it's basically just going to try and balance out the foreground with the tones that you have in the background, which is pretty amazing, really. I think something like that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit OK. And now let's have a look. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? For a couple of clicks like that. No mucking around with selection tools, just literally clicking a sky in. This is a photo that I shot just down next to a train station, you know. It's pretty epic. I love it. If you open up the folder here and have a look, it's non-destructive. So all of these elements you can change after the fact. Foreground, background, and then the lighting effects and such. I think that's pretty epic. Let's have a look at another one. So this one is pretty tricky. I definitely would not be able to make this selection on my own. I'm not that I'm a wizard with selections anyway, but let's have a look. Sky replacement. So that's automatically applied the last settings that we had. And I have to say that looks pretty cool. Like, it's decent off the bat. I don't mind it, but it's not quite what I had in mind. So if you click on the sky at the top here, you can go through and Photoshop has a lot of built-in options. I think for this shot, maybe if you sort of have a look at the dappled light, it's quite warm in the front here, and I think maybe something like this could be really cool. Oh yeah, that looks really cool. And there's nothing wrong with using Photoshop stock ones. In fact, I've done it quite a few times. But the only thing is, as more people start to do this and more people start to basically cotton on that this is how easy that this is, I think you'll start to notice, it'll become very obvious when you see someone's photo and they've used a stock one. So to have your own original skies, I reckon 9 times out of 10, no one is going to know that you've changed the sky unless you've done a bad job. But if you've got all your own skies, no one's going to recognize yours the way that they would recognize a stock Photoshop sky. So let's play around here. Try and match those foreground colors. Warm it up a little bit because it's quite warm. Again, that's pretty damn good. So let's have a little bit of a look. I might have gone a little bit too heavy because you can see there's a little bit of haloing around the selections here. It's not too bad. At 100%, no one is ever going to see that. No one's going to notice, especially, you know, for online, for web or Instagram or whatever. But it's easy just to play around with the settings. In fact, I might just fade off the sky just a little bit here. And that's much less obvious, much more natural. It's pretty damn good. This last one is extra tricky. Have a look, lots of leaves, lots of fine adjustments. Again, this is not a selection that I would be comfortable making on my own, but let's give it a go. Edit, sky replacement. And that's just using the settings from before. And it's pretty good. Let's have a little play here. Somewhere around there feels pretty natural. Brighten it up a little bit. And let's keep it nice and warm because the foreground is pretty warm. The better you can match a sky to what it feels like it needs in a picture, obviously the better it's going to look. Let's kill these lighting adjustments a little bit. Makes it a bit too dark. And then this one's not doing too much, so I'll leave it quite low. Let's have a look. I mean, come on, look at that selection. You can see it's actually just blended in with the blue around here, but I don't mind. That's okay. I'm totally okay with that, to be honest. Like, no one would ever know, especially for how long it took. That's pretty bloody good. Just to show you, the selections are pretty damn good. Anyway, you get the idea and you can see the importance now. It might feel like a bit of a hassle, but if you can spend a few afternoons, you know, maybe one a month or one every couple of months, just going out and for 10 minutes, just shoot some skies, add them to your library, make a big Lightroom catalog, make a folder on Dropbox so you can access them wherever you go. And I mean, just look how much you can turn up the epic in your photos. So cool, such an easy win. And it requires very little skill.
Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. That's it for this one. Give me a big fat thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.